This is actually my first meetup here, so it's lovely to meet all of you. We'll introduce ourselves in a minute, but we're going to be talking about building games and building great teams. Now I have the clicker. There we go. So my name is Kaitlin. I've been a game dev for about 2 years now. Me and Sri went to school together. I did not get a job in games right away, so I'm currently working in film as a virtual production artist. And those are some of my favorite games. Maybe you've recognized them.
Yep. My name is Sri. I'm a game developer and I specialize in environment and technical art. Since graduation, I've been doing a lot of indie stuff. Some of my favorite games are Dragon Ball Z, Kaitlin 3, Ghost of Tsushima, and Magic.
Cool. All right. Magic remote. Next slide, please. Oh no. Technical support, please. My laser still works. I'll be right back. Hello. I'm still holding the mic. There we go.
So, this is what we are going to be talking about. We will introduce what we do, why you guys have to listen to us, and we'll be talking about some core concepts of how we've been building a team for the past couple of years and how we've stuck together and made a couple games and potentially make more in the future.
And we don't hate each other after the end of it. So.
Oh, yeah.
Cool, so what do? We make games, and we're, like Sri said, we're hoping that you just take something away from this talk. We're just sharing our experiences, and hopefully we can hear some of yours after the talk as well. We'll be having questions as well. Oh no.
Again?
Again.
Oh yeah.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, so these are the two games we've worked on in the past couple of years. The first one was Lightseeker. It was an 8-week project we made in Van Arts. And then the second one was a quite recent one we made in a week.
Yeah, the second one was a game jam. Actually, the Unreal Engine
Mega Jam.
Epic Mega Jam. Has anybody done the Mega Jam before? Show of hands. Yes,
oh, yeah?
You know the struggle. Cool. So for the first one, I was producer and Sri was a tech director.
Yep.
And then the second one, we did modeling and tech, producer and tech together.
Yep. Cool.
Cool. So we're going to first talk about some tools that we found really helpful, really successful. Some that we used in both projects were items like Trello, Laser. Miro is a really helpful whiteboard. Has anyone used Miro before? Yes, awesome, familiar with it. Notion, if you like a lot of text-based stuff, I find it's really great for publishing web pages for your team. And of course, good old Google Suite.
Yeah. So this was a timeline for the first project, Lightseeker. This was a game about a little girl who goes into the depths of her soul. And the levels are basically emotions she's trying to overcome. The game did not have major fighting mechanics. It was more platforming and stuff. So yeah, the first few weeks were very linear. We had stuff together. And by week 4, we had all the characters in, almost all the levels in. And by week 6, we were informed that we had to make a cinematic, and we did not plan for that. So the last 3 weeks were crazy crunch, but we managed to pull that off.
Yeah, so we had a really hard deadline, 8 weeks, no extensions. This was for a school project. It had to be done. This was our projected timeline. We actually did manage to stick to it because of the things like the tools we used, but we also had milestones. And so milestone check-ins were something that were my responsibility as a producer. I published them on a website every week, and it was just basically a recap. but it was taking screenshots, just a dev diary of everything. And we found that it actually provided some really good feedback for our team. They were able to reflect and say, yeah, you know what, we did a lot this week, so yeah. If you want to check out the blog post, that QR code will take you to our website. It is still up.
Yeah. Going to team dynamics, we had to make sure we had a structure similar to a AAA studio. So we followed the 4-lead structure where we had an art director, a producer, a creative director, and a tech director. So we did not assign ourselves the roles. The whole team voted on who gets to be what, and that's how the whole process went by.
As producer, it was one of my responsibilities to make sure the team really mended well together, and we found that keeping in constant communication was really great for mutual support and accountability each week.
Talking more about the voting process, it was multiple rounds. So we wanted to make sure the entire team's opinions were heard. So starting from ideation, we were doing a bunch of voting to get down to what we wanted to work on. So, yeah.
Yeah, and then just kind of recapping, so communication and trust was huge, and we did that a number of ways through our different tools. Communication doesn't have to be direct text. It can be left on cards and updates and stuff. So you can almost call it like nonverbal online communication.
Yep. Of course, diversity is an important aspect of game development, and starting from day one, our team has been really diverse with people across the globe. Like we had me, who's from India. We had like our classmates in Costa Rica. We had Kaitlin work from Italy. So it was it was a fun experience.
It's quite an adventure,
yeah.
Indeed. So on the topic of working remote, just being empathetic to one another and considering that we're all in different timelines, time zones, and being realistic. Crunch really does kick everyone's butt. Yeah. Cool, so we'll just wrap it up by talking about a couple of our current projects. Mm-hmm. This one here is called Kadia. It's currently for a project proposal for a giant, essentially, version of Las Vegas in Saudi. So me and my team, we're recreating this all digitally as concept. So it's an entire city in Unreal Engine with lots of lasers. So pretty cool.
Yeah. Looking at projects I'm working on, I've been working on 4 different projects in different roles and different intensities. Looking at Foxden, I've been a junior environment artist in it for the past few months. The work hasn't been too intense. But coming to Amphibious Heart, I took up the character artist role, which is a new adventure for me. And I'm also working on my own game, Mylin. It's a South Indian-inspired game, and I cannot talk much about the digital cannoli game. We are under NDA. Thank you.
Perfect. So that was the end of our little talk. Thanks so much for listening. If you guys have any questions, we're happy to take them. Well, Sri's going into the audience.
Hello. So wow. So since you're working so you're talking about team building and project management in general, what do you think has been the biggest challenge you faced as a team so far? Something that almost, I don't know, crashed the team.
I think what really put us through the test was giving honest feedback. And when people aren't pulling their weight, how do you communicate that in a fair way? Mm-hmm. And we talked a lot about it, especially during our project Lightseeker, mm-hmm. When there were 4 leads. And then I think what helped was that there were 4 of us leading as well. So we got to bounce ideas off each other and validate that feedback before it was given, being like, hey, this is what I'm seeing, do you see this as well? And then we all communicated with that person, or we had a one-on-one so they didn't feel ganged up on. Okay. And we were able to resolve issues that way. And personally, I think getting honest feedback is a sign of respect from someone. Yeah, and if you just keep an open mind when receiving feedback, it's good.
Nice, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Also, I guess with some of my projects recently have been one of the minor frustrations, but I guess we try to solve is, say, working out of, say, GitHub with like just having to, push and pull like, changes and, make sure there's no conflicts. And I know obviously, like you say, communication is crucial, but I'm sure there's probably other ways where maybe you ensure that everyone's like, following a regimen of, okay, this is when I'm going to push my change, this is when I'm going to pull my the changes, et cetera, right?
Yeah, so in our team, we had certain issues where some of our teammates weren't able to meet the deadlines. And at that point, we had to step in and like take over what was going on. We tried communicating with them, and like, because all of us were on a deadline, we had to take up some of that responsibility along with whatever we had. So, yeah.
I currently work with a team in the UK. So we're literally the other side of the world, completely different time zone. And not gonna lie, it happens all the time. I think with giving the feedback of, rather than on Slack or Discord angrily typing, hey, check your stuff in, you just be like, hey, this is the impact we're having because of the actions you're taking, or rather not taking. So just letting them know what the feedback is, the impact, and then if it happens again, then you really know some maybe more action needs to happen with that person. But yeah.
Anyone else?
Hi there. If applicable, how did you guys approach a QC process for your projects? And where did you put the checkpoints?
So the first thing was identifying the problems. It was a tech-heavy project, which we did initially. So even with art, we faced a lot of issues. And when it came to programming, I was leading the team, and it was more about finding what was going wrong and like delegating the work within the team to fix it before the deadline. So.
Thank you.
Last question.
Thanks. Perhaps for Kaitlin here, coming from film, have you found there was big differences in the way the teams work compared to your film experience and big, well, I don't know what kind of film experience you have, so maybe you can elaborate on that, but I imagine it's big projects with big rendering farms and dealing with that kind of situation as opposed to the game dev, which is much smaller scale on occasion and more direct impact of individuals on the work.
Yeah, for sure. It's interesting working in virtual production because it's film, but it's also real time. So these environments have to run real time. They have to be performant. We also have stages around the world. So like Sri mentioned, there was one in Italy. We had a stage in New Zealand, and we had to make sure that the work on the West Coast or in the UK was well handed off. And I'm not gonna lie, we're still working through it. It's still a struggle. Constant communication, sometimes face-to-face on Zoom, as much as you can. Text space can only do so much, in my opinion, so sometimes having a Zoom call helps. And getting, again, it's going to come back to feedback. Get honest feedback, ask for feedback all the time. So the stage team, I know, is having a really hard time with not getting some things check in, like fog, for example, you have to render after DOF, and those settings were not checked by the artist, but the artist didn't know. And so there was a miscommunication. So asking for feedback, doing postmortems after your projects are really important. So everyone has a voice and being like, hey, this didn't work. And the leads go, I had no idea that was not working. So do postmortems after your project. That's how you can identify issues and resolve them for next time.
And thank you. Would you just say, contrast that with the game experience?
I haven't had a professional game work experience, so it's only been in film, but for indie projects, it's been very much the same since I started developing. A lot of, yeah, I think we're out of time, but we can talk more later. Thanks very much, guys.
Thank you.